Kenny Cars and Coffee or Cars and Coffee with Kenny. If you've been with us for a while, you understand what that is. If not, you can go back to some of our previous episodes and kind of figure out what that's all about. Which all of our previous episodes, by the way, are on YouTube, YouTube Kenny Brown TV. So, and if you're a car guy, you're in the right place. We're going to spend the next hour talking about car things, performance, how to make your car better, and answer a whole bunch of your questions, which we've got some really good ones this week. And on the agenda, got to get to my notes, for this morning, I'm going to talk about the importance of tire temperatures. I've got some, for show and tell, I don't have anything physical, but I got some pictures. There's one of the show and tell things is we were talking to Chris about the Pro 4R, our Kenny Baer Pro 4R race brake setup for his car, and he said he heard rumors that we had a monster brake setup. Well, I call it our BF Monster brake kit, and we'll be showing you pictures of that. And we've got some quick hitters. I've got something else that's kind of interesting and cool that I want to share with you. But for those who are just joining us, I'm Kenny Brown, and I'm here to try to share as much of my experience and knowledge as I can. And the reason we're doing this is because I see so much misinformation there, or misinformation just isn't true on the internet. And I tell people, just take whatever you read on the internet or in the magazines with a grain of salt, because I'm here to try to tell you what I think my position is. And I've been doing this a long time, made lots of mistakes, and hopefully if I can keep you from making some of the mistakes I made, then it's going to be a good day. So we've got it's a special, kind of a special episode today, because this is Memorial Weekend. You might notice the pictures changed back here. Well, that's a picture of Destroyer Escort. That's the type of ship my dad was on in World War II in the Pacific Fleet. And we have a lot of veterans in our family. In fact, I lost 3 uncles in the line of duty, and I've got a cousin who we're pretty proud of, a naval aviator, graduated of Annapolis, Top Gun, all that stuff. He was forced to retire. He didn't want to retire from flying. He loved it so much. When he retired, he had something like 1,400 arrested landings. Most aviators in the Navy that retire with 200-300. He ended up with, I can't remember the number. He told me one time off the top of his head, it was the third highest amount of arrested landings. And arrested landings means flying a jet and landing it on that little bitty aircraft carrier in the middle of the night in the rain. So his last mission was they're on the way back to the Middle East, and during 9/11, and their last mission was to run air support over the East Coast after 9/11. So, and then also along the lines of veterans, I want to big shout out to Kurt Dooley. Kurt Dooley has joined us with his, I got to look on my sheet here. Here we go. Kurt Dooley with Resilience Racing. He's the co-founder with John Winkler, and with this kind of cool deal. What they're doing is they're working on perfecting hand controls so disabled veterans can race, and it's a pretty cool deal. And we're one of their sponsors. And I encourage you to Resilience Racing. I think you probably look them up on the internet, and they've got a GoFundMe page or something like that, because they're trying to get just the last little bit of these hand controls done so they can have disabled veterans racing, which is, I think, really cool. Let's see. Oh, yeah. If you're a veteran, head over to the Speech Therapy Society and let us know what branch of service you're in and when you served. I think that, we're all proud of our veterans. So let us know who you are, so we can kind of give you one of those.
Also on this page right now.
Carrie said also on this page right now. So Veterans Day Memorial. It's kind of a bittersweet for me, because it's Memorial Day, and we kind of support our veterans, but at the same token, I don't hear engines at the speedway. This is typically 500 weekend, and it ain't happening. But I think it's going to be August. Somebody said it might be it'll be running in August. So let's kind of move into some of the questions. We got some really good ones this week. Jeff Layson wants to know if safety wire are 2-piece rotors. That's a really good question. The fasteners that we use today are really, really good, and we really haven't found the need to safety wire them. Now, 15, 20 years ago when I was racing, we'd always safety wire the two-piece rotors so that just in case. But fasteners have come a real long way, and right now we really haven't found the need because we service them pretty often, and they wear out pretty often. On race cars, they'll wear out really fast. So it's just like brake pads. They're here today, gone tomorrow. Okay, Bob wants to know if our temp pate our rotor temp pate has a shelf life. I don't know. I think so. I've had some for a real long time. It's still good. So we are trying to do some inquiries to see if it does have a shelf life. I can tell you that I've had some I've had for years and it still works. Okay, Kobe wants to know the attitude of the car affect braking performance. Do I prefer the car level, high in the front, or high in the back? It's not so much braking performance. The attitude, from my perspective, attitude, the car all has to do with suspension geometry. And the way that for a live axle cars, the way the geometry is set up, I like about a quarter of an inch raked at the back, higher in the back, no more than a half an inch. That's with driver and a half a tank of gas. And the reason you do that is because when you start an event or start a race, you're going to have a full tank of gas. And when you get to the end, you have a half tank. So setting your ride heights with the half tank of gas and the driver kind of splits the difference. So you don't go like way up in any direction. Okay, Andrew, this is another great question. Andrew is having a lot of problems sliding around in his pleather seats on track. And being in control on track is really, really important. If you have a good seat and some harness belts, all of a sudden you become part of the car. And if you don't have that and you find yourself having to brace the car, then you're focusing on bracing the car and not where the car is, not where you're planning it, not where you're pointing it. So that's a really good point to bring out. Is you really, once you start getting into at least intermediate, you need to get a good seat, if not a set of we've got like rally style harnesses, which are actually just one click and it's a 4 point, but it's built in such a way that acts like a 5 point under in a crash. So just to having yourself just strapped down, you not only don't move around, you become part of the car, and that's so important. You hear me talk about you have to be one with the car. I mean, the car is going to tell you everything you want to know, but you have to be really connected to it. And the seat is important. But the problem he's a big guy, and he can't find a seat that fits. We have a lot of seat options. I mean, there are seats come into, I look at them in three basic categories. There's, let's call it a sports seat that kind of like reclines, like the seats you have in your car, but have extra bolstering in the seat and the shoulders. That's what we call a sports seat. Then there's kind of like a club seat, which is a one-piece, has good bolstering on the thighs and the shoulders, but isn't so restrictive that you can't move around. And then the race seat is really, really kind of tucks you in, and they have the halo that comes around your head. I mean, if you're going to go like full-time racing, you really need one of those. However, if you're just doing track days, well, you talk about a pain in the ass trying to get in and out of the car. I mean, it's just tough. So my recommendation is a good track seat that has bolstering in the hips and the shoulders, and we have several models. Just so you know, Andrew has several models, what we call the big boy models, that are extra wide, and most of our seats come from Europe, and they build these wide seats specifically for the American market. So we're more He-Man over here than I guess they are in Europe. So the thing is, set up a 15-minute consult with Gary, and I can kind of go through some of your seat options and kind of get you fixed up with what I think is going to be best for you, and in the big boy size. And that brings up another thing I do for purchasing decisions, for quick questions. I've got complimentary 15-minute conference calls. So I do about 3 or 4 a week just to try to help people get on the right track for the parts they're purchasing, or looking forward things they want to do. We have another program once we kind of get beyond that and people are like into track and on racing. I make my living engineering race cars on track. And we're going to set up a program where we can do where I can actually do personal engineering and guidance and coaching. We just have to figure out how we're going to make that work. I'm doing this program right now with David out in California, who is building a AIX Mustang from scratch. I was kind of skeptical when he said he first wanted to do it, so he basically hired me as his, let's say, chief engineer, direction person, mentor, answer guy, and I've kind of put together a package for him, and we talk a couple times a week, send a lot of emails, he sends me pictures, and I was very skeptical in the beginning. Anytime anybody wants to build a race car from scratch, he's doing just a knockout job. We're going to have some pictures here before too long so you guys can see the really cool job that he's doing. It's going to be an amazing car, I can tell you that. Because we went in a little bit different direction. Instead of putting a Coyote in there, we decided to go with something that was simpler, lighter, and made more torque, and that's an all-aluminum Windsor. Wagner Engines up in Wisconsin is building it for us. It's I originally wanted to go aluminum 427, but doing the math, Dennis said, that's a lot of rotating mass, and if you want to get it to rev and decelerate, we need to take some of that stroke out. It's going to be, I think, a 406, but we're talking over 600 horsepower, and we just made a decision to go to a dry sump, and the dry sump system we're putting on this is like way cool. Maybe we'll post some pictures up. It's actually the oil pump is actually part of the billet oil pan. It's just way cool. Anyway, this is going to be a neat motor. It's going to make 650 horsepower, and it's going to have just torque up the wazoo. So, and it's going to be light. I mean, you put a Windsor into an S197, and it looks lost. So, like I say, it's going to be a pretty cool car. Also, we're using a 5-speed instead of a 6-speed because 5-speeds are lighter. But the Tremec TKO 500 and 600, there's an issue with them. You really can't shift them hard above 6,500, something like that, unless you know the guys that can fix it and can modify it so it turns it into a full-on racing transmission so you can shift it anywhere you want. So anyway, I love cool cars, and it's going to be a cool car. But the point is, I am available as a coach and engineering support for you on track or building cars, whatever you're doing. We haven't figured out how to quite put that together yet to make it cost effective for you. But in the same token, we have to do something because it takes a lot of my time and doing a lot of research for people. So anyway, getting back to Andrew, set up a 15-minute. If it's scheduled out, I'll do some pre-research, and I'll have some options for you on the seats. Let's see. Afonde, and I apologize if I'm misspelling your name wrong, but Afonde just joined, and he's watching Coffee, Cars, and Kenny. I kind of know where your royalties lie. Anyway, I guess he used the prep sheet that we have on the units part in resources on Speed Therapy Society, and he says it was extremely useful. He found a couple of things he wouldn't have thought of. So if you're looking for something before you go out on a track or do a race weekend, going through your car and doing a real thorough is really important. When we do track days of race cars, we do what we call I got a light nut and bolt and a major nut and bolt. The major nut and bolt is we go through the whole car, check pretty much every nut and bolt. But after you do it a couple times, you come up with maybe a dozen or so of fasteners that might loosen up. Well, that's a minor nut and bolt. We'll go through and just do kind of a minor nut and bolt in between. But it's really helpful, and it's in the Speed Therapy Society resources. Oh my gosh, see all these thumbs going up? I'm loving that. I saw some heart-shaped wrenches go up too. You guys are awesome. Let's see, also, I find he's catching up to episode 7. So yeah, like I said before, the previous episodes are on YouTube, Kenny Brown TV. And he said I don't like torque arms, but we talked about that. I mean, but on SN95s and Fox, I mean, you really don't have a lot of choice until I come up with something in a couple of years. But what he's running lower control arms with a bearing at the axle end. Bearings are good. We talked about that on control arms. And a 3-piece urethane at the chassis, and then stock rubber bushings on both ends at the top, which is good. That allows to move, and he's got a panner bar. Okay, but the only thing you can really, there's two things you can do to improve that. Number one is how low will the panner bar go? If you've got a panner bar that's adjustable, get all the way as low as it go. If it goes, ideally getting to the bottom of the differential is perfect, but get it as low as you can go. And if you've got fabrication skills, maybe you can extend the brackets down. Just make sure they're strong enough. The lower you can get that rear panner bar, the lower your roll center is going to be, and we talked about that. That's the point the back of the car wants to roll around, and you want it as low as possible. And in a live axle, about as low as you can get is the bottom of the differential. Like I said before, the Trans Am days, we take a Watts link and mount it at the bottom of the diff to get the advantages of the Watts link and the low roll center. But the Watts link on the back of the diff is not that good because the roll center is the pivot point, and you really can't move them. You can move them down a little bit, and some are different, but you can't get it to the bottom of the differentials where I like it. So that's two things. And also, we've got axle brackets, traction brackets for the SN95 Fox. They will help some on axis and traction. We sold some to somebody, and he called back and he complained that he only moved the point on the axle down like an inch or so. Well, here's the thing. An inch down at the axle, you start drawing a line all the way up, and that's about a foot in the middle of the car. So it doesn't take very much to make a big difference. So we've got those. If you want to call in, we can kind of talk to you about that. Let's see, also, well, you've got lots of good questions. He's running a factory traction lock, or better known as non-traction lock. We burned them out like crazy in the Saline racing days until Auburn made some real special racing differentials for us. But he's asking about the Eaton True Track or the Torsen. Which do I prefer, and why? Well, it's kind of in all of our IRS cars, the 99 to 04, every one we put a Torsen in. I mean, it's quick and easy, and it makes a huge difference in an IRS car. In our S197s that don't come with a Torsen, like the Bosses come with a Torsen, we'll put a Torsen in the S197s. As far as the True Track, I have Strange Racing build me custom 9-inch rear end specifically for road racing, and what they use is a True Track. So either one of them is good. I think the True Track, I didn't look to see, it might be more cost effective, I don't know. But I think either one of those, because they're both worm gears, and they're both torque sensing, which means that a torque sensing differential doesn't have clutches or plates. It's got a whole bunch of funky looking worm gears, and what it does is it actually senses which tire has the most traction, and it'll shift the torque to the tire that's got the most traction, which makes it such a good thing, especially for Mustangs. Oh boy, I see those thumbs up flying. You guys are really on the button today. It's kind of like at the Speedway. He's on the button.
Hi.
Oh, here we
Are
go.
you finished with this section or not?
Yeah, I could be.
Okay, well, we have a couple people asking about the picture in the back. I think some people came in late, so you might want to talk about Memorial Day.
Okay, for those who came in late, this is Memorial Day, and we're honoring our veterans. That is a destroyer escort, and that's the type of ship my dad was on in World War II in the Pacific Fleet, and I thought it was just appropriate to bring that out today. I mean, he lived to a ripe old age. Was it 96? Yeah, he lived to 96. Imagine that. I hope I get there. No, I don't want to get that old. So yeah, and then I have 3 uncles that gave their life for this country, and I've got a really cool cousin who is retired out of the Navy that was one of the best aviators they've ever had.
Who's a veteran?
Who's a veteran? Oh yeah, and if you're a veteran, get on to Speed Therapy Society and let us know if you're a veteran. It's Carrie says down here. Is that right?
And also during this session, we want to know right now.
And right now, we want to right now. Those that haven't been with us much, I really don't do very well without Carrie. She's kind of my, I guess, I don't know, coach, producer. Oh no, not Payne. I don't want to go there. Okay, and if you've got some questions, go ahead and send them in. We'll try to get to them. And talking about the veterans thing, Kurt put together the resilience racing. they're building hand controls so that disabled veterans can race with hand controls. Totally cool. And Kurt himself is 24 years retired out of the Marine Corps. He was intelligence and special ops officer. So he also ran the Speedway operations for a couple of years too, but that was just too much of a pain, and I can see why. So we've got a couple of show and tell things. Oh, we got to go back to the first page and see what I forgot. Tires, tire temperatures. How important are tire temperatures? They're massively important. Anybody that's been with the program for a while knows that if you call in and want to know how to adjust your shocks, adjust your car, first thing I'm going to ask you, what are your tire temperatures? Tire temperatures are, to me, I mean, that's the number one thing you have to be aware of. When I go to a track weekend, I'll spend the entire first morning just setting up the car, because once I get that car set up, I'm gone. I'm passing everybody, and it's a lot of fun because won't go super fast when we're setting up the car. I'll be working on different things, tire pressures and stuff, and then I'll just wave people by and they'll think, oh, I'm pretty cool, I passed that guy. And in the afternoon, I'll just fly past them. But when I go to the track, the very first thing you do, tire pressures. Use the tire temperatures to get the pressures right, because you can't adjust anything else in the car until you know what your tire temperatures are and you have your pressures dialed into the optimum. After tire pressures comes camber. You adjust your camber based off of tire temperatures. And once you get your camber changed, any other adjustments will come after that, whether it's shocks or sway bars. But tire temperatures are really important. Like I say, I'll do the whole first morning on tire temperatures, and then the afternoon, maybe in the middle, I'll check, because they will change with the heat of the day. And like we've talked before, and we'll talk again in the 5-day workshop, which is it's still coming. We're just with this virus thing, we're just so far behind on everything. But with the tire temperatures, we'll talk about more in depth. That's how I adjust everything off tire temperatures. And what?
It's called Transform Your.
Oh, I forgot again. The 5-day workshop's called Transforming Your Driving Experience. You can sign up for that in the Speed Therapy Society. And hopefully that'll be coming soon. Now, Chris, I told you Chris is building a really cool car, and we got him hooked up with the K-Brown Pro 4R race brakes in the front, and then we went with the 14-inch upgrade kit in the back that takes from a standard size little bitty rotor in the back, it upgrades to a 14-inch two-piece slotted rotor. You retain the rear OE caliper and pads, which makes it easy, and it just has a bracket that moves it out. So that's a really quick and easy brake upgrade for the back of the car. And once you get like a real grip kit on there, you can use a lot more brake, and having a bigger rotor in the back gives you more braking capability because of the leverage thing. So that's kind of where I was going. Now, the brakes he was referring to are BF Monster brakes. Unfortunately, they're only available for S550 cars, and we've installed them in the past. And I don't have one here. All of our brakes are custom built to order because we give people the option of choosing the color. So I don't have anything to show you, but I got some pictures. Let's see how that looks. Okay, now the little one on the right is the Extreme Plus race calipers that I've been running on Ruby and all our race cars for years. Fabulous brake. But look at its size compared to the BF Monster. Okay, now the BF Monster goes on a 15-inch rotor. And to give you like a little better, that's what it looks like on the car. And that's a 15-inch rotor. Look how much that takes up of the rotor. And here's another shot on the car. Yeah, so the rumors are true. We do have absolutely BF Monster brakes for S550s. And here, that's the size of the brake pad. I mean, you can't have a big caliper without a huge, super big brake pad. So that answers the question. The rumors are true. And as you see, they really are big. Now this is, I didn't plan on this, but I just kind of ran across this during the week. I get a lot of these emails, Mustang type emails and stuff, and there was one that was touting. I'm not going to use the name because I don't do that, but this is somebody's. That's called a tuner car. That was touted heavily and lots of fanfare, and it's. I kind of went through the content and I thought that's kind of interesting. I'm going to go through the content with you guys. This is a Series 1 car. It has windshield banner, upper grille with LEDs, lower grille, front splitter, rocker splitters, gurney flap, rear diffuser, deck lid panel with Ford Performance, fender badges, serialized aluminum door sills, puddle lamps, graphics package, serialized dash plaques, embroidered floor mats, always important, shift knob, Ford Performance handling package, and track pack wheels, 19.5 and 1910. Doesn't say the tires. Center caps, black lug nuts, and performance parts, hood struts. Oh, and a serialized laser engraved radiator cover. I mean, this is the kind of car for people that just aren't really performance oriented. They just want kind of a cool car that's got somebody's name on it, that has it's more flash than dash. Because like the Ford Performance handling package is like springs and shocks and sway bars, and I know that from the spring rates that Ford uses, they can't be much more than 200. I mean the GT350 R only has a 225. So for comparison, here's kind of my sport touring package. Start with the cold air kit and tuner. Engine oil separator, which is really important if you've got a Coyote motor on track. Pedal Max performance accelerator, Street Performance coilover shock package with a 395 front spring and 735 rear springs. Front adjustable sway bar. I don't put a rear sway bar on the S550s, and the reason for that is, they're naturally loose. I think most of the crashes that I've seen S550s they backed into the wall. And that's, we talked before, loose is when you hit the back of the car hits the wall first. And I've seen a lot of people, they turn all the nanny, they start driving, they're really getting cool, they're going pretty quick, then you turn the nanny things off and the back of the car gets loose. So early on we put adjustable sway bars on the back, and all I ever did was set them on full soft. So I thought, why do we even do this? Let's stick with the stock to keep the back a little more stable. Anyway, front sway bar, 3-inch high-flow aft cat exhaust, and typically we use Bassani, which has a magnificent sound. Short throw shifter. Oh, it does come with a shift knob too. 2-piece slotted rotors, front and rear, and we've talked about the importance of slotted rotors before. Stainless steel brake lines on the front, high-temperature brake fluid, and for the people with the PP with the Performance Package 1 that like the wheels, I do kind of a trick. They come with like a 255, 275 on them. I actually take the 275 tires on the back and put them on the front, and then put a 285 on the back. So we really increase the footprint with retaining the factory wheels. And then the front splitter, low profile wing. This is like a real wing, but it's set real low. And of course, graphics and serialization. So, I think the moral of the story, there's plenty of cars out there that look nice, have really cool stuff on them. And if you're into that, that's a great car to buy. If you want a real performance car that you can not only drive on the street but take to the track and pretty much show everybody what it's all about, you need to come to me and have me build you one of my cars. By the way, we're still doing serialized cars for the 99 to 04 Cobras, and then all of the S197 Mustangs, mostly the 11 to 14s, and of course the S550s. So that's kind of a little comparison, what's typically in the market and what my cars are all about. My cars are all about performance, and you guys probably figured that out. And Carrie's coming up with a computer, so that tells me it's question time.
Actually, we don't have a lot of questions today.
Oh, good, because I got a couple more.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's see, I lost. Oh, here we go. Christopher wanted to know about Motul 600 and 660, and also Castrol SRF. Is SRF much better? Well, I did a little research, and I've got some pretty interesting statistics. Remember, I said this is a data-driven sport, and Baer just brought on brake fluid pretty recently, and I checked into it. In fact, they sent me all the data and testing from. It's actually manufactured in the UK, and so as you know, the Motul, the the dry boiling point is 585 degrees Fahrenheit. The Motul 660 is 594 degrees Fahrenheit. The SRF is 590 Fahrenheit, and the Baer is 608. So needless to say, we're pretty much switching over the Baer high-performance brake fluid because it's given us the highest dry boiling point, which is, you need that. I mean, the higher the boiling point, the less opportunity it is for the brakes to boil. And when they do that, it's like tears all the way around because you got no pedal. So that's kind of like a little interesting note on brake fluid. And I think we'll probably post that up there too, so people can reference that.
Yeah, on the Speed Therapy Society.
The Speed Therapy Society
Facebook page.
Facebook page. Speed Therapy.
Yeah.
Speed Therapy Society is a Facebook private group. I got it. Okay, I got that. Okay, and Carrie, you said you had some more questions?
Sure.
Ready
Okay.
for
Well,
coffee?
we have a lot of servicemen in here.
No, in case you're kind of wondering what coffee I drink, it's half and half. Half regular, half decaf. The half regular is French roast, and the half decaf is espresso. So,
Okay, we have
manly coffee.
just kind of go through some of the servicemen that added. John Winker from Resilient Racing is on.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Thank you, John, for your service. And what you're doing with Resilient Racing. Let's see, Jeff Layson, USAF from 03 to 09. And he is the gentleman that's invited us over to the Nürburgring.
In my dreams, believe me.
Dave Robinson is thanking everybody, all the veterans. Frank Fresh is a Air Force Vietnam vet. Heart goes out to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I lost all my uncles was a naval aviator, lost him in Vietnam.
Cliff Glidden, he's a veteran from 68 to 71. USNR, First Class Petty Officer. Thank you, Cliff. Appreciate that. Tim Allen.
Yeah, most of my family is pretty much all Navy, except one uncle that was in the Army Air Corps.
And then Tim Allen, he got his first 5-liter, his 86 GT while serving in the U.S. Navy at Pearl Harbor. He'll never forget their sacrifices.
Pearl Harbor. That's where I told you my cousin, who's the naval aviator, like Supreme. He actually after his last mission on the Washington flying supporting the East Coast. He went. The Navy offered him a captain in a ship, but he really didn't want to do that. So he was based in Hawaii, and he was doing something secret over in Afghanistan and all those countries over there. They never talked about. Anyway, he retired. He stayed in Hawaii. So he's in Hawaii on the other side of the island from Pearl Harbor, where he said it's nicer.
Okay, and so Dennis Browning, he's a veteran of 22 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Tim Allen. Just reading a few for now. Okay. I think that's kind of what we have here. Kirk Dooley, also, you mentioned him. He's a big veteran. Brian West, here's our first question. Brian West, do you currently recommend a rear bar on the S197 with your kit?
Absolutely not. With our rear grip kit, throw your rear sway bar away. The rear sway bar, technically, it is a spring, and it's like a third spring to the rear end, and it's designed as you go around a corner and the car leans to kind of transfer some of the load back and forth. With the rear grip kit, the geometry that I put into it, it negates the need of a rear sway bar. If you put the rear sway bar on, the back's going to get loose. Just plain and simple. We did. I was working with a team out in California that we actually brought them from amateur racing into World Challenge professional racing, which they didn't think was a big deal. Once they got there, their eyes were like about this big. It's a whole different ballpark from going from amateur race club racing to pro racing. But I told them not to run a rear sway bar, and they just wouldn't believe me. So they put a rear sway bar on, and they said, "Yeah, don't run with a rear sway bar. So absolutely not. You don't need it. The geometry is just so good. You just don't need a rear sway bar.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Jim Flattery, on a 2012 Boss, if a big brake kit in front is installed, can you use the factory front brakes for the rear brakes? He just bought the GRZ also for his car.
So if it's got the...
He has a 12 Boss.
Okay.
If a big brake kit in the front is installed, can you use the factory front brakes for the rear brakes? So can you swap the brakes out?
No. I mean, is it possible? You have to do a whole bunch of bracketry. Number one, you have to get the right rotor offset, and then you have to put a bunch of brackets. And then the other thing you might run into is the piston size on the front brake are specifically sized for a specific volume of brake fluid. You move that to the back, and you're going to have too much braking at the back, because that's that's designed for the front where it has the most braking. A rear brake, and even the brakes, the rear would be smaller pistons because the volume is going to be smaller. Instead of that, our 14-inch upgrade kit is, I mean, it's really, really good. You can go from the little baby factory rotor to a full 14-inch rotor, two-piece slotted, and you retain the factory caliper. It's slick and easy, and especially with the rear grip kit, it works like crazy. It'll actually drive your rear rotor temperatures up because you've got more rear brake in the back, which means you're using it more, which means you're stopping later and shorter.
I'm going to answer a couple other questions, and I think we're going to end with Tim Allen. He has a long, drawn-out question.
Okay.
So that is interesting. Okay, so you answered Jim Flattery's. Kevin Worthy just joined.
Hello, Kevin.
Christopher, what happened with the idea of posting a track setup sheet in the group? That's totally my fault.
Not me.
So we'll post it up this week in the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. Tim Allen has a comment. When I first bought my Baer brakes, they were very specific regarding type of fluid and how it was packaged. They specified steel can packaging, and at the time, this probably goes way back 20 years or so. That's rather hard to find now. And the comments good are, okay, that's what that comment was. Also, Andrew Fox says to try Black Rifle coffee.
Ah, Black Rifle coffee.
Yeah, the best smooth flavors. So we'll have to check that out.
Yeah, check that out.
Dell Hughes joined in. He is a U.S. Army veteran here.
Hello, Dell. Yeah, we've done a lot of track events with Dell, man. It's really nice to see you join, and thank you for your service.
Bob Jones, he has a question about the Taurus and bias ratios. I think there are two available. Which do you use and why? And what would you use the different ones for the street tires and the race tires? Would you use different ones?
Different ratios for street tires or track tires. I think if you're going to do a bunch of track days, use the higher ratio, the racing ratio. It's going to give you the best traction. If it's just a street car, it doesn't matter. But I'd kind of gravitate, because they came out with that specifically, I think, for the Ford racing race cars. I mean, either one will work great. Don't get me wrong. Just the higher bias will be better for full-time track or racing.
Okay, and Tim, let's see, question. Okay, here's the big question. You ready?
Here's the big question. I am ready.
Okay. What inspired you to get started with Mustangs? What is a very early story that you can tell us about your journey? Who in automotive were you influenced by that helped pique your interest? This is from Tim Allen. He said he's never had a chance to meet you, but he's been able to personally meet some Ford influences such as Carroll Shelby, Steve Saline, and he went to school with Jack Roush Jr. So I'll read it again. What inspired you to get started with Mustangs? What is the very early story that you can share about your journey? And who in automotive were you influenced by?
Okay, I'll start with last one first. Who in automotive was I influenced by? Easy answer, Jimmy Clark. When I was a young lad in high school, I mean, I'm Scottish, and Jimmy Clark is Scottish, and I had a lot of admiration for him. I mean, he came over the U.S. and kind of dominated. I actually was fortunate enough to be at Watkins Glen the year he won the Grand Prix there. I was just a baby though, that has nothing to do with in a tree and drinking a jug of wine on a road with my other friends. But Jimmy Clark, and he was kind of like my biggest influence. I mean, being at a Grand Prix and hearing those like the Ford V8s and the Honda, I think B16s are running then. I mean, man, once you hear that stuff and it gets in your blood, it's like boom, game over. I mean, that's what I just had to do. So that's kind of what got me into this. And I've been doing race cars since I changed my first set of spark plugs, and I'm not going to tell you when. It was a long time ago. In fact, those who haven't been with us, my trusty toolbox back here I've had for over 40 years. It's been to just about every major racetrack in the country. So as far as what got me into Mustangs, that's a good question, as I got a great answer. In the 70s, I did British sports cars and Japanese sports cars, a lot of SCCA stuff, an awful lot of open wheel cars. And then in early 80s, I ran the Skip Barber racing school at Road America for a season. I ran the shop and then was the crew chief for the racing championship. And then after that, I was working with March Sports 2000 program. Sports 2000 are kind of little bitty sports racers. They're kind of like a prototype car would be today, except they're smaller and they're open cockpit. They're called a sports car in the UK because you can fit two seats in it. And that's why. And they ran a 2-liter Ford motor that was pretty souped up. So I was working for March at the time. That program kind of went away, and a friend of mine, I was in Omaha then, and a friend of mine who was a dentist and had a passion for cars, I was actually building some Cougars for him. That's Cougars with a K, and that essentially was a tube frame that came over from the UK with like bicycle fenders on it, and it was a tube frame, and everything else was Jaguar engine, front suspension, rear suspension, transmission, and brakes. I was building those, and he went. It was owned part of a Ford dealership. He went to California on a convention, and while he was there, he read something, I think maybe Hot Rod or Car Craft, one of the magazines, about Steve Saleen. And he thought, oh, I'm here, I'll go visit him. So he visited him, and he found out that Steve had just gotten his Saleen Mustangs homologated for the SCCA Endurance Championship. And he was ready to go racing, and I don't know exact conversation. Long story short is we sent Steve some money to get his first car built. I flew out there. I did a deal with Steve. It was like at the Long Beach Grand Prix, and a month or so later was the first race in the Escort Endurance Series, which is at Sears Point, I think. So we used Fred Bloom's body shop, which was in Sacramento, to build the first car, and we did really well. And then we brought that car back to my shop in Omaha, and we built the second car. So that was the 86 Saleen racing program, and we won the. It's like here we are with Ford Mustangs and General Tires trying to race Porsche on Goodyear. Yeah, just imagine that. And the 86 Mustangs, the front disc brakes were that big, and the rear brakes were drums. So I got more stories about that. But anyway, we won the 24 Hours of Canada with a backup car because the primary car was leading, got crashed. And then we worked through the winter on the 87 cars. I did my engineering input. We changed the cars for 87. In fact, we ran in 86, we ran a strut tower brace at Road Atlanta, and the SCCA made us take it off because it wasn't part of the street package. So that was part of the street package. We went to disc brakes, had great cars in 87. We kind of, we dominated the 87 series or season, and we had won. It was a pretty tough go with Porsche though. In 24 Hours of Canada again, our primary car won. The second place car was a Porsche that if we had gone another half hour would have been dead. I mean, it was pretty sad. And then we also finished third and fourth, so we had three of the top four cars. But that's how my whole Mustang career got started, was with the Saleen cars. And then, at the end of the season, we won all four championships. We won the Manufacturers Cup, we won the Tire Cup, we won the Drivers Championship, and the Team Championship was the last one we had to win, and we had to win that at Sebring. And that was And that was a tough race because we were leading the race and the rear end went out on Steve's car. So we actually had to do a complete rear end change in pit lane in the rain and get it back on track. And it was so close at the end. We had Parnelli Jones and George Falmer in the third car. And it was so close that the leading Corvette in the ultimate class crossed the finish line something like 10 or 15 seconds before the 12-hour mark, which meant you had to do another lap. Well, that gave us an opportunity to do one more lap. We wanted to need one more lap because the Parnelli Jones car was actually ahead of us on track. So we tried to call him to the radio, and he's pretty good at ignoring radios. So we finally had told the SCCA it was a mechanical problem with the car. We thought it was dangerous, and we had him black flagged. That worked, but we had to stop him at the end of pit lane so he wouldn't cross the start-finish line, so the other car would cross, and we won the team championship. So somewhere buried in all my archive stuff, I've actually got video footage of that whole thing, and just how frantic everybody was at the end of the race, including Steve. I mean, he was just... But we won the team championship, which made a clean sweep. But after that, I mean, Salim was famous. I was tired, broke, and went back to Omaha. And all of a sudden, somebody showed up the door and said, "Hey, I got this Mustang. Can you do that for me?" "Yeah, I can do that." So we did one car with another car and another car, and then pretty soon I started to look around, and the racing market industry is about that big. Aftermarket performance is, I can reach that far, huge. So that's why we kind of switched over primarily to street performance and started building Mustang street cars and parts. And over the years, I've brought more parts, first to market, more parts that have since been copied than I think anybody else. And someday I'll go through all the different things we've done first with everybody. But that's it was a long question, a long answer. That's how I got into Mustangs. And it's like I've just stayed here. I mean, I've sort of grown part of them. Mustangs been around for 56 years, is it, for Mustangs? And I've been part of that for 30-some. So that's like 60% of the time Mustang's been alive. I've been with Mustangs. So I guess it's part of me now.
Okay, I think that's anything else. Otherwise, we'll sign up for the day.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, I want to thank you for being here. This is actually, we're going to be on time for a change, and thank you for all our service guys out there. We appreciate your service to the country, and our condolences to people who have lost service people, and for the Wounded Warrior guys who are trying to race. Man, you guys are awesome. I mean, the military racing people, nothing is impossible. They'll do anything. With the mission, whatever the mission is, they'll do it.
We're going to have a special newsletter going out this weekend on resilience racing and honoring our servicemen and the fallen servicemen.
If you're all that, we're going to have a special newsletter for resilience racing and our fallen servicemen. Mm-hmm. So with that, it's going to be a great weekend. You can actually do things now, so please get out, get in your car and drive someplace. You need to turn the radio off, okay? Roll the windows down so you can actually hear the car stereo, and I don't mean the one that's in the dash. I mean the one with the two pipes at the back. So get out, have a good day, drive around. They're starting to open up track days, so I mean everybody should be getting pretty anxious about that. If you got short questions or purchasing decisions you're having trouble with, set up a 15-minute consult. If you want to sign on for my engineering coaching program, we'll figure that out here in the near future, and we'll give you more information on that. Otherwise, have a great weekend. Thanks to all the veterans again, and we